Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VC TV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and today we're going to be talking about health tech and insurance tech. What is all happening in these spaces, and what do you need to know both as entrepreneurs and as investors to make the right decisions and follow the movements as these industries continue to progress? I'm joined here by some outstanding friends and family of the VC TV network who've joined us from around the world to share their thoughts and insights on this topic. And before we get started with introductions, big thank you to the Token team, to Hasmik and Maria for making today's episode possible. With that being said, Keith, it's been a minute. Welcome back. A little intro and background for everybody, please.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I've missed my VC TV family, but it's been a very busy time for me, as I'll be talking about in today's show. But in short, after 20 years in venture capital, last year I launched a new firm called Upper Stage Capital. We are more on the private equity side of things. We're an ESG buyout fund, acquiring companies in the 2 to 8 million EBITDA range. It's a very interesting underserved space, but one that requires a lot of hands-on work. Fortunately, we are up to that challenge and have a lot of experience there. Today, I'm going to be talking about a recent exit I had in the health tech space, one of the best in my career, and also about some insuretech deals that we've been looking at and why we're interested in that space.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Keith. Vandana, welcome back. A little intro and background for everybody, please.
Yeah, thank you for the Token team for having me here over and over again. And thank you, Kyle, for hosting this show. I would like to introduce myself. I was in Singapore and Jakarta for 15 years in investment banking, and I had my own family office fund there. This is my 7th year back in India. I did investments, then I went back to advisory. So currently I run an investment bank out of India. It is called Convanto. It is one of the most, one of the most female-led investment banks in India. And I'm also an advisor with Loyal VC, the INSEAD-led Canadian VC Fund, with 165 investments in more than 35 countries. And I'm a partner with GST Venture Studios, a Silicon Valley-based venture builder. Apart from this, I've given 160 plus talks all over the world. I am nominated, I've been awarded as the top 10 women leaders in wealth management 2021. My brand comes under the top 10 women entrepreneur brands, and we are sector agnostic. Typically, we do a $1 million to $25 million. And once again, thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. Anuj, welcome back as well. A little intro and background for everybody.
Thank you so much, mate. Great to be back. Great seeing you again. Quick round of introduction then. Being a startup founder for a decade, started 3 startups in the last 10 years. At present, working as a founder for Yellow Sapphire Technologies, where we are working with early stage founders across the world, helping them get market ready, get investor ready with their product. Primarily focusing on fintech and medtech products. With Yellow Sapphire, we are currently based out of India, but we're working in UAE, in Canada, in Argentina, and in the United States.
Wonderful. Very exciting. Everyone, we're talking about health tech, insurance tech. A lot has happened in health tech. Insurance tech, we start to see a little bit progression as well. But all 3 of you are working in different areas of this. Keith, kick us off. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in these areas. You've had a few exits recently you wanted to share more importantly about. But again, there has been some massive movements in health tech over the past couple of weeks, and I think it plays relevance to what you've experienced as well. So share a little bit more.
Yeah, well, my big exit from last month is Redland. This is a company that I'd actually been following since my early days when my first year at Mitsubishi Corporation. So like 2001, I first looked at this company when it was just a semiconductor growth technology company, and it was interesting. But what was the market? It wasn't there. It was more intellectually interesting, not interesting as an investment yet. But when you flash forward 12 years, when I was at Pangea, they were just beginning their pivot into healthcare, into the imaging, medical imaging. their semiconductors are particularly sensitive for photon counting, which gives you a superior result from a CAT or nuclear scan, or sorry, I mean to say CT scan or nuclear scan with a quarter of the radiation. So great health impact there for diagnosis, but also for not harming the patient. So we recapped that company. At that point, the company was almost 15 years old, and almost all of the existing investors were way past the end of their funds, unable to support the company. The company was really hand to mouth and limping along, kept alive by a few loyal angels. So it was an opportunity to really recap. It really needed to be done. We ended up setting a valuation a quarter of what it had been, but that was what it took to get the deal done. We actually offered higher, and then it took us quite a while to build a syndicate because people, after so long, were very skeptical that this company could pivot from just being a manufacturing company into being a medical imaging and health tech company. But last month, or just 3 weeks ago, the company was acquired by Canon, the Japanese imaging giant, who had been an investor in the company for some time at that point. And there had been acquisition interest from them and several of the other major medical imaging companies for quite some time. But we sold that company. It's been announced. I can disclose that we sold it for $335 million US. The IRR on that to the investors was very high. I believe on that Series A money, we made 20 times our capital. So really an outstanding result. And it was all about taking that technology and finding the right market for it. And that also is what I'm doing at Upper Stage. I find great companies with great products or technologies, but maybe they haven't found that right market yet. And that's what Redland did, found the right market, and it was health tech. And super excited about this. I'm really glad that this is going to impact the lives of millions and millions of people.
That's great. And speaking of health tech and impact, Anuj, I want to come to you real quick. I mean, you have been focusing on health tech and talking so much about it here on VCTV. What are you seeing in terms of trends and momentum around the industry, again, especially over the last couple of months, as we have seen a shift towards, more focus around genetics, more focus around CRISPR, more focus around, leveraging unused compute power towards the health tech industry, but then also ourselves getting more into user-generated content and health data as well. So talk to us about what you're seeing as trends as an investor in the space.
So it's really interesting because there's practically been a fundamental shift from where we were back in early 2020. Going back those days, you would see a lot of health tech companies coming in, which were trying to introduce a new product. And that's been the theme around around the health tech industry, because while, of course, technology has been able to reach out on every other industry and then sort of make an impact there, it's been lacking on the health tech side of things. Let's not underestimate the fact that a doctor goes through roughly 20 or 30 odd patients every hour, and they barely have a few minutes with every patient. So getting them to actually adopt a tech product which slows them down rather than just writing up a prescription has really sort of hindered that adoption. And over the last 1 year, one of the main pivots that has come in, going from early days of the pandemic, where everyone wanted to sort of bring out a health tech product that would allow for teleconsultation and sort of focus more on genetics and targeted medicine, to more of nourishing and developing a healthcare ecosystem in itself. A lot of growing economies, especially India, Southeast Asia, they're yet to catch up on that healthcare infrastructure. There's been either tremendous growth in some countries, with countries like Vietnam and countries like Singapore, which have built a massive infrastructure and it's second to none. Meanwhile, other countries like Philippines and India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka have sort of been lacking on that front, where there hasn't been a centralized database, where there is still a lot of paperwork with not a lot of communication happening between departments. So we are seeing that new trend where companies are coming in that are now trying to bring in either a PAC system that can digitize all that data, that can digitize not just prescriptions, but also imaging, and have it uploaded onto cloud. That way, it can be shared amongst doctors, it can be shared among institutions, and as and when a patient needs to see another specialist, they can transfer that data digitally rather than carrying it with them all the time. This is bringing that Slack factor into the equation, where just like Slack, one of the main reasons for their success being that not only was a tool that one could use in an organization, but every department could plug in the tools that they are using within that department and then communicate with each other. So you're now seeing some companies that are trying to come in and build that same model where they want to build one tool, which is not only connecting the entire ecosystem, but allowing others to plug and play, to build that ecosystem where everything is getting interconnected and everything is being sort of centralized so that you can access your information whenever you want.
No, it's a great point, and something that's very big as a necessity. I mean, the centralization of or decentralization of information is incredibly crucial as, you know, people do travel or change or migrate or wherever they go as well. Vandana, to you, same question. I mean, what are you seeing, having invested in this space throughout Southeast Asia and globally as well, that's maybe changing on the health tech side as to what's coming next?
So, telemedicine has been around for several years, but the pandemic has propelled telemedicine services into being the leading vehicle for remote healthcare. Now, the health tech industry accounts for less than 1% of the overall healthcare industry in India, implying a huge market opportunity for health tech. In the past 2 years, there has been a growth in this segment, and it has been a good signal of the thesis that we all have, which is that we live at an extraordinary time in terms of innovation in biopharma and innovation in the application of technology to healthcare. And it is also one of the most competitive markets at this moment. Currently in the market, we are seeing so many businesses doing well in this space, like Practo, which is a telemedicine portal, e-pharmacies like 1mg, Farm Easy. There are fitness and wellness startups like CureFit, and many other remote medical services like healthcare, IT and analytics, home healthcare, and personal health management, which are being used by people nowadays. From an investment basis, if we can improve that reliably, we should be looking for these opportunities and investing in them. It will make better medicines, it will drive better clinic trials, and it is good for the healthcare system. And currently, I am working on a SaaS based model with healthcare providers combined with the mapping of insurance providers, strategic partnerships, and an in house technology that allows us to gain leadership and a differentiated position in the market. And we are successfully disrupting the concept of connected care by facilitating a real-time digital communication between patients and providers, including in-person consultations, telehealth, and secure electronic communications between clinics and their patients, and a platform that enables active aging for people aged 60 and above. The platform has been founded by a group of entrepreneurs and experts in aged care and its leadership team. The company enables active aging through offerings that are subscription based and aims to address the clinical and social needs of elders at the comfort of their homes. And in addition to this, it also provides a high-end bespoke assisted living and memory care facilities specializing in dementia in case the elder needs specialized assistance with daily living due to the aged related disorders. So these are some of the things that I'm looking at.
So one of the things I want to bring up that was kind of a common theme here throughout for everybody is, you know, technology is playing a role in our health and insurance But the question is, where do we go from here? Does insurance and health data and health tech, do these come together and driven by data? Will our insurance costs soon be driven by our health data that we generate? We've got wearables that we're all wearing that are producing more and more data on us, and we're giving more of that data. Will that work to our benefit or negate in some way, shape, or form? And is this something that's coming? Keith, I see you ready to jump in, so I'm going to turn it to you first.
Well, Kyle, we've talked about this before, and you know the company I think of right away when I think about data and health and insuretech. I've talked about ubiquitous sensors before, and the data that comes out of this, and not just wearables, but ambient atmosphere sensors, can reveal so much about your health. And there are applications of that are non-controversial, that everyone would agree with. And I've talked on this show before about elder care, for example, remote monitoring of your aging parents or relatives to ensure that they are enjoying an independent life, but without hiding something that really requires intervention. That's fine, right? If you know that your mom is doing okay, a remote your sensor is telling you that, that's great. But when the sensor sort of reveals, perhaps in the near future, that there's cancer there, and what happens to that data, and does that affect their insurance? Does that affect their coverage? Will it immediately impact their ability to live on their own? What will be the financial impact? Then the uncontroversial idea around monitoring the contents of the atmosphere suddenly become quite scary, and they will really change things for individuals. The corporates, though, are going to want to offset that risk. And there is the potential that they could also pass along some savings. But unless there are real competitive pressures, we know that they don't tend to pass along the savings very quickly. It really takes competitive pressures to have that happen. So the possibilities here really excite me as an investor. As a consumer, as an individual who's concerned about the rights and wants to see the greatest coverage and health for people around the world as a whole, I think we need to be careful about how these technologies are implemented.
And data privacy is going to play a big role of that as well. I mean, when we start to have, again, this convergence of health data affecting our insurance, and then insurance data maybe affecting our lives, that data is very much needed to be secured in some way. And Anuj, you brought this up as well about that availability and access of data. I mean, what are your thoughts on where these two worlds collide and what that might look like from a data privacy standpoint?
See, this is where it gets really beautiful, right? You're talking about an industry which really hates government regulation. Neither insurance nor healthcare wants government to bring out new policies. They don't want them to bring out those stringent structures and compliance that everyone has to follow. But that's going to be the motto, right? As these two industries collide, as that data is being generated by people who are trying to make sense of what they have, get that diagnosis one-on-one. The insurance company are, of course, want to keep their best interest at heart. At the end of the day, of course, they are a business. But here is the flip side of that coin as well, right? As you're processing more data, you're going to look at preventative care. You're not going to look at a reactive care model anymore. With these wearable technologies, with that data storage and cloud, and then single healthcare ID cards, you're looking at a system that can identify if you had a condition probably 10 years ago. And if that leads to any secondary effects probably a decade later, that system can be identified probably at the 9th year itself, and then can be followed through, can be looked upon, and make sure that it doesn't really lead to a point where it becomes life-threatening. One of the very common examples for that would be a simple disease like hypothyroidism. It's fairly common in Southeast Asia, and anyone who has hypothyroidism over the next 10 to 20 years has a risk of developing myocarditis and then in turn develop further cardiac issues. If such a system is being developed where all of that information is being tracked, it's being monitored, and as long as your hyperthyroidism levels are in check, you can be rest assured that your cardiac issues will not really be trouble for you, or if they are actually going to show up, you can have that preventative care where you have it looked up in the ninth year itself rather than just waiting to go into that surgery. So I think that's where it's going to be a very fine balance. Insurance company would want to make sure that they keep their costs low, and people who are actually taking care of their health are actually going to feel the incentive for it. So one motto which I've seen over the last 5 years is that every company is trying to be a fintech company, every company is trying to be an insurance company. Companies like Ola in India, which is our Uber, has developed their own semi-open prepaid instrument. They are trying to get into that vertical already. With the COVID pandemic, they already entered into insurance, trying to do top-up insurance for mediclaims. And as that system grows, as they get more users, they are definitely going to look at expanding deeper into that market, expanding deeper into that insurance sector. So it's going to be a wonderful thing that's coming through, and I think it's going to lead to, I would say, the changes that's going to come in. It's going to be for the good for everyone.
It's definitely going to be interesting. That's for sure. Vandana, any advice you have for entrepreneurs building or fundraising in these industries right now? And then Keith and Anuj, I want to come back and get your closing thoughts on where we go from here and future trends that people are starting to see. But Vandana, any advice for entrepreneurs and founders looking to build and fundraise in these industries?
Yeah, so the healthcare industry has used AI to advance many aspects of patient care, such as improving diagnosis, recommending treatments, and engaging patients through digital health programs. It also has been used to reduce risk while expanding various capabilities and allowing organizations to do more with less, especially during a global pandemic. And perhaps the greatest value of AI is yet to be realized, relieving staff of time-intensive manual tasks, reducing burnout, and helping focus valuable human time on those tasks of highest value. An interesting fact of AI is that the technology in most cases serves as an extension of its team, augmenting the capabilities of experts to be more efficient. The advanced technology does not replace human expertise, and as human feedback is necessary part of the AI relationship. Examples of growing relationships between AI and subject matter experts are evident in recent medical research. Certain types of AI have been trained to understand images. These systems have shown to be as good or as better than trained physicians at detecting tuberculosis in chest x-rays or picking out cancerous cells in large microscopy images. And computers do not suffer from fatigue or errors in the same way as human may after a long day of examining images. So my message here is that to all entrepreneurs who are creating more and more health tech and AI startups, please reach out to us. We are available on LinkedIn and through my website, www.convanto.com. And, for investors, my message is that try to invest in unique ideas, evolving healthcare, because I think that's a very, very important sector nowadays.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vandana. Anuj, where do you see some predictions of things going in the next 18 months? Where can everyone find you online as well?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Anuj Chauhan. You can find me on Twitter at Anuj. Just final closing thoughts on the industry in general. I see that fundamental shift that I keep talking about. The last 1 year has been time machine. It's brought a digital transformation like one could have never imagined. Every company had been forced to go digital, and the medical sector, which was probably going to be the last one of them to go digital, had finally adopted. The cutting edge technology that was limited only to research purposes till now, the implant sector are probably working on genetics and in diagnostic tools, where the adoption was yet to happen at that rapid pace is suddenly happening. And any product that's coming in, or any startup or any investor that's coming in now with the goal of bringing that ecosystem together is going to be creating a wonderful product. One of the reasons why Apple is so successful is because they have that ecosystem of their own product. They make sure that every product is complementing each other. I don't have to look at your phone. If you're wearing an Apple Watch, I can just look at you and say, yeah, you have an iPhone. And that's going to be the case with healthcare products as well. Collaborate, don't compete. There are already some tremendous products out in the market right now. They have just been focusing singularly with a very hyper commercialized approach. It has to change as long as we keep patients at the center of their care, as long as we make sure that we have their best interest at our heart, because at the end of the day, we are playing with their lives. So as long as that's happening, we're looking at a wonderful future ahead. We are looking at some wonderful companies yet to come.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anuj. Keith, closing thoughts, same question, and where can you be found online as well?
Sure. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, where I'm fairly active, especially now that we've closed the first deal for Upper Stage. There'll be a press release tomorrow about this. You can also follow me on Twitter, but I'm not very active there. Or you can go to upperstage.capital. The name of our company is also our URL. I would say the major thing to focus on here, and I'm thinking here about insuretech, but there are definitely lessons that can apply here to health tech, is to take a look at what software has done in transitioning from one-time sales to recurring revenue. This is a natural for insuretech. It should be a natural for health tech as well, but we are surprised to see a lot of established companies out there that have good products and yet have not structured themselves to have business models that involve regularly recurring revenue. They're dependent on customers to upgrade or to reorder this type of thing. But the difference in multiple between a company that has recurring revenue versus one that doesn't can be 3 or even 5 times difference, depending on how fast the market they're addressing grows. So for entrepreneurs out there, if you already have something and you don't have a recurring revenue model, even if it's really hard to think of how your product can go into recurring revenue, I would say it's well worth it. Maybe hire a consultant, talk to some friends, talk to Kyle. He can connect you to thousands of people that might be able to help you here, because a recurring revenue company is a valuable company, and it's an absolute natural for insuretech or health tech.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Keith. Great closing thoughts. Same Anuj and Vandana. To our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, like, share, and subscribe on today's episode. Also, please do reach out to Anuj, Keith, and Vandana, myself as well. We'd all love to hear from you. Please add context where you heard us, where you met us, and what you would like to continue the conversation about. With that, we'll be back here tomorrow with more VC TV. A big thank you to the Token team, to Hasmik and Maria for making today's episode possible. Until tomorrow, everyone, have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon.